Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much. Let me live in a holy, holy way. Let me love in a holy, holy way. And that first holy, by the way, is WHOLLY, as in the wholeness, oneness. And the second holy is in sacred. And that's specifically important because this month's theme is Holy, Holy Uprising. For a long time, religious science thought of itself as a best kept secret, but that's really not the truth. We are a leading edge spiritual organization and poised with teaching and tools to take humanity into a new paradigm of consciousness. And so, as we are invited to demonstrate this in our lives, in our centers, in our communities, and in the world, and in order to do that, we need to rise up in a holy, holy way. So, a holy, holy uprising. And last week, Tracy Brown spoke to us about revolutionary love. Revolution being defined as a fundamental change in the way of thinking about or visualizing something, a change in paradigm. And then she switched that to evolutionary love, the upward spiral of love, because that brings about in consciousness a change not only to ourselves, but the systems and institutions that shape the experience of us all. And that revolutionary, evolutionary love invites us into a way of being, a way of thinking, a way of feeling and acting that is rooted in our love for one another. And it's in this uprising of consciousness that we rise up in love for ourselves, for each other, and for the wholeness of life itself. You see, this year, the Centers for Spiritual Living has a theme, and it is evolutionary vision and timeless wisdom. That's what we're about. And so if we look at today, we're talking about the evolutionary vision being a vision of a world where personal responsibility joins with social conscious in every area of political, corporate, academic, and social sectors, providing sustainable structures to further the emerging global consciousness. This is part of the global vision, the heart rendered global vision for the Centers for Spiritual Living. So that is the evolutionary vision. And there's also the timeless wisdom. The timeless wisdom, what do we know? Holy. There is one infinite reality. And we call it by many names, and I don't even care what you call it. We call it God, we call it life, we call it universal spirit, we call it infinite intelligence, first cause, the thing itself. Whatever you call it, it is one reality, undivided, complete, whole within itself. And this oneness creates everything out of itself. Everything is created out of that oneness. And therefore, it includes both the absolute, the relative, the tangible, the intangible, that which is seen, that which is unseen, the physical, the metaphysical, all of this is God. And so today, our topic is this too is God? See, there's so many taboo topics. Many of us won't even touch them. And I certainly, there's a lot of topics I'm not even going to touch. But what I know is that all of these topics are also God, right? So no matter what the political affiliation, the cultural experience, the religious, the spiritual path, all God, right? Vaxxers, anti-vaxxers, those who passed on the virus, those who passed on the virus itself, the Israelis, the Palestinians. Today we're hearing about all kinds of things on one side or the other side. And we say, this too is God? And we have to, as metaphysicians, as religious scientists, as spiritual beings, we have to say, this too is God. This too is God. We have to believe that nobody is doing it wrong. So there's a story about a humble monk who is sitting at the peak of a hill that overlooks the grassy area, and the earth meets a river. The river flows with a breeze. The breeze explores the mountain range. The mountains neighbor the sky, and the sky conceals the entire universe, hiding that unknown in plain sight. And so the monk, in his meditation, softly exhales. Om, he repeats. And then very quietly, he hears a note that breaks his chant. Moo. And the monk stops for a moment and, without changing his position, dismisses it. Om. He begins again, slightly longer. And then he's interrupted again. Moo. And the monk turns to find a cow looking up at him from the bottom of the hill. Kind cow, the monk says, please do not interrupt my meditation. And the cow stares blankly back at the monk, and the monk sighs and continues. Om. And even louder he hears, moo. Dear cow, I must reach enlightenment. Please refrain from making your cow noises or find another hill. And the monk continues again. Om. Moo. And the monk stands up finally and says, cow, why must you interrupt my chanting? And the cow replies, because you're saying it backwards. Isn't that the truth? Sometimes we think somebody else is doing it wrong. Someone else, in being who they are, is doing it wrong because they're not doing it the way that we would do it. Oh, that is so evident in my life. So we have a different point of view in Science of Mind. We're taught that our true nature is divine. Our intelligence is universal mind, and that functions at the level that we can conceive of it. We're made of pure spirit. Each of us has within our own nature the seeds of that perfection. However, sometimes in my ignorance of my true nature and with a misuse of the law, I sometimes bring about suffering in my life. And by striving, by trying to be something different, by thinking somebody else should be different, by thinking that things should be different. But that's not the case. You see, as spiritual individuals, we heal our suffering by remembering our true nature. And we allow that spirit to work for us by working through us. And we recognize this power is working, and we conceive of that greater good, and then we continue to use our tools to remove all doubt, and come to that understanding of the greater good. See, sometimes we try to place limits on God, and we can't place any limits on God. We manifest that infinite to the degree that we are in alignment with it. So if you've been dipping into this sea of infinite potentiality with a thimble, then you ought to get yourself a bigger bucket. So if we have a little good, we have to get that bigger bucket to hold the infinite good that's available to us. And, by the way, you don't even need a bucket. You can just pipe it right in. And we do that with what? We do it with prayer, affirmation, meditation, gratitude, our spiritual practices that expand our consciousness so that we can bring more light into our lives. And as we bring more light into our lives, we bring more light into the world. So as we begin to see ourselves from the truth of our being, we experience an inner life that is bigger, that is more real than our external circumstances. So our external circumstances then have to change to accommodate that new mental equivalent, the idea that we have of ourselves, the idea that we have of how the world works. Ernest Holmes tells us that there's an inner urge in our minds to grow, to expand, to break down the barriers of previous limitations, and to widen our experience. And this persistent urge is a divine influence, an irresistible force, and it constitutes that greatest impulse in the human experience. And so, as we recognize that, why is it we don't step out? Why is it that we sometimes hesitate? See, where's the risk? If there's only one thing happening, if all that's happening is God, if that's the only thing there is, that divine intelligence coming into form, as we see in our V symbol, then we are holy, holy, because it comes into form by means of us. So where we stand is holy ground. And these are the questions I often ask myself. What's to fear? Where's the risk? See, the universe responds to us. It responds to how we think, how we feel, and we're creating our experience of life. And if we hold back from a new experience because of fear of failure, the biggest risk is not opening to that infinite, not opening to the infinite possibilities that are ours. Find God. That is the adventure. Ernest Holmes again tells us our belief sets the limit to our demonstration of a principle, which of itself is without limit. It's ready to fill everything because it's infinite. Infinite. Look it up. Infinite. Oh, I had to do that. It's like infinite, eternal. These are concepts that, I have trouble getting my mind around. But that is how we grow, and the possibility, infinite possibility, because our higher consciousness benefits the world. According to David Hawkins, who calibrated human consciousness from its lowest vibration, which would be like shame, guilt, to the highest vibration, which would be enlightenment, that higher consciousness radiates a beneficial and healing effect on the world. And he used the kinesthetic testing and created a chart to explain what mystics have always known, that love is more powerful than hatred. But we have to show up for the game. There was a football game. It was an important game between the big animals and the little animals. And the big animals were crushing, no pun intended, were crushing the little animals. And so the coach at halftime, the little animal coach made a passionate speech to rally the little animals. And so at the start of the second half, the big animals had the ball. And the first play, the elephant got stopped for no gain. The second play, the rhino was stopped for no gain. The third down, the hippo was thrown for a 5-yard loss. And at timeout, little animal defense huddled around the coach, and he asked excitedly, "Who stopped the elephant?" "I did," said the centipede. "Who stopped the rhino?" That was me too," said the centipede. "Well, how about the hippo? Who hit him for a 5-yard loss?" "Well, that was me as well," said the centipede. "So where were you during the first half?" demanded the coach. "Well," said the centipede, "I was having my ankles taped." Michael Beckwith tells us this. He says, there is a lie that acts like a virus within the mind of humanity. And that lie is there's not enough to go around. There's lack, there's limitation, there's just not enough. He continues, the truth is that there is more than enough good to go around. There is more than enough creative ideas. There is more than enough power. There is more than enough love. There is more than enough joy. All of this begins to come through a mind that is aware of its own infinite nature. There is enough for everyone if you believe it, if you can see it, if you act from it, it will show up for you. And that is the truth. So we come back to the story of the Good Samaritan. And we often use the term Good Samaritan to refer to a person who helps others, random acts of kindness. And it originated from the parable that Janice read for us all. And in this story, we know that a Jew was robbed and left to die by his assailants. Two highly respected men passed him by. Then a Samaritan came along. And unlike the other two, he attended to the man's wounds and brought him to an inn. And what makes this story very compelling is that Jews and Samaritans were historical enemies, and Jews don't talk to Samaritans as they consider them renegades, and this enmity is returned. So the fact that a Samaritan was helping a Jew was mind blowing. So in her blog, Judy Ponio says, and I asked this question as well, what has a 2,000-year-old story to do with us? See, Jesus used parables to teach us lessons about life and about God. And so, what do we learn from the parable of the Good Samaritan? Well, the first thing is help when somebody needs help. See, it's good to have the intent to help, but acting on that intent is better. Show up, suit up, have your ankles taped, whatever it takes. See, the Samaritan's intent didn't save the wounded man from death. It was the actions. See, he decided to do something. He didn't walk away like the other two guys. So then I have to ask myself, am I the Good Samaritan, or would I walk away? Second thing teaches us, race should never matter. See, xenophobia and racial prejudice has always been a great divider among nations. And since the ancient times to the present. And well, we tend to distrust others who don't look or sound like us, who don't believe like us. But the Samaritan didn't care about race. He showed us that racism has no place in charity, and that we should help others regardless of where they came from or what they believe in, regardless of whether we were on the side of the Hatfields or the McCoys. After all, we're created equal, and no one race is superior or inferior from the other. And at the end of the day, we're all part of this same humanity. And what else did the Good Samaritan parable teach us? It says, be kind even to your haters. Help even someone who may have wished you ill. Or have you ever wished ill of your enemy? I've certainly done that. Sometimes the temptation to take revenge on our enemies is very strong, and it's difficult to resist. And that's when I remember, it's all God. It's all God. So in the story, the injured traveler probably hated the Samaritan, and he knew that the dying man may hate him, and yet the Samaritan helped him. Martin Luther King said about this story, he said, on the parable of the Good Samaritan, I imagine the first question the priest and the Levite asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me? But by the very nature of his concern, the Good Samaritan reversed the question. If I do not stop to help this man, what will happen to him? So the other thing we learn is help without expecting something in return. Most of us help because we're expecting a reward of some sort. Maybe we return a lost wallet, maybe we help our friends because they'll help us when we need something. But in doing so, we create a world where we only help our kind and those who are one of us, and it's not much incentive to help strangers. So the Samaritan knew that the wounded man may never help him in return, and yet he did what he did because he knew it was the right thing to do. So how do we do this in our lives? Well, we're so, I have to speak for myself. I'm so wrapped up in my own life, in my own, little place that has, closed in here, that I forget about the less fortunate. So how do we start? We start with little acts of kindness. We practice more empathy, not only for each other, for ourselves. We think less about what others can do for you and more about what we can do for them. And then we forget that there's a them because we're all that one. And Ernest Holmes tells us faith without works is dead. We should not only pray, we should act, each contributing the best he has to that common purpose, each willing to make sacrifices, not reluctantly, but made as one who offers all he has for the great purpose. And he continues, for if the whole nation works together and prays together, a great moral and spiritual power, an actual soul force, will penetrate the whole world, helping to bring confidence and calm judgment and right action until the crisis shall have passed. Freedom need never be ashamed of itself, nor liberty bow to despair. God is always on the side of the right, and faith will always conquer fear. And so we dwell in the oneness of God, even when appearances suggest an absence, even when it looks like, where is God in this? This too is God. And so we can't merely gloss over the genuine issues in the world, and we can't hide behind platitudes until the storms pass. We as a community, we as people who are recognizing the holiness, we have the opportunity to apply these teachings to find what is ours to do. And using the principle of oneness, allow ourselves to deepen our spiritual practice, to grow in compassion, and take divinely inspired action in the world as we are personally inspired to do. So, how do we do this? Well, I invite you to carve out some quiet time for yourself, even a few minutes a day. Anybody who wants to is welcome to join our 7 a.m. meditation practice. Contact me if you're interested. And then imagine yourself experiencing total, complete inner peace. And so let's just take a moment to do that now. Let's do that using the metta meditation. So just take a moment. Let's exhale. Let's just exhale and sit comfortably. Breathe naturally. Just let the breath breathe itself. And place your hand on your heart, or just feel that idea of your heart. Just imagine that in your mind. And just repeat to yourself, love, love, love. May my heart be filled with love. And as you do this, bring something to mind that you love and care about, and just allow that to fill your heart, fill your mind, fill your body. Maybe it's an image of a puppy. Maybe it's an image of a baby. Maybe it's an image of your loved one. Whatever it is, something that you have experienced that love. And just let that wash over you. And then say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be well. May I abide in peace. May I feel safe and secure. May I feel loved and cared for. And now bring into your mind someone that you truly love and respect, and send them the feelings of that same warmth and caring. May you be well. May you be happy. May you abide in peace. May you feel safe and secure. May you feel loved and cared for. And now do this with someone you barely know, maybe someone that you have a neutral feeling about, maybe somebody you've seen on the street, on a bus, maybe the clerk in the store, maybe the delivery guy. And just send them that same feelings of warmth and caring. May you be well. May you be happy. May you abide in peace. May you feel safe and secure. May you feel loved and cared for. And now just radiate that warmth and love to the people all around you, sending love and kindness to everyone, everyone in the community, everyone in the city, state, country, world, noticing that there are no borders. From space, we only see that wholeness, that holy, holy. May we all be well. May we all be happy. May we all abide in peace. May we all feel safe and secure. And may we all be loved and cared for. And so bring this feeling of loving kindness, allowing it again to wash over you, to swim in that sea of loving kindness, to notice it all around. Breathing in, breathing out, at peace with yourself, at peace with the world. And focus once again on your breathing. And then notice where you're sitting. Start to notice the room around you. Start to feel, maybe move your fingers and toes. And when you're ready, just open your eyes and come back into this present moment where we are holy, holy. And so it is.